Open, so sorry. The chat is open, so please feel free to share your name and location. We're always interested in seeing where everybody's logging in from. So go ahead and put that in the chat. And then also, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat as well, and we'll answer them at the end of the session. Also, Sherry L. Bowman, the Education Support Specialist, is also helping out and with this presentation as well. For those of you who are not familiar with the American Indian Alaska Native Tourism Association, for more than 25 years, AIANTA has served as the only national organization dedicated to advancing cultural heritage tourism in Native nations and communities across the U.S. Established by tribes for tribes to address inequities in the tourism system, AIANTA is a 501c3 national nonprofit governed by an all-Native board of directors and serves as a united voice for the $15.7 billion Native hospitality sector. AIANTA's mission is to define, introduce, grow, and sustain American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian tourism that honors traditions and values while helping these partners, businesses become market export ready for domestic and international markets. Tribes who are looking to start or expand their cultural tourism footprint can find resources at www.aianta.org, or to learn more about Native culture, please visit www.nativeamerica.travel. Today's webinar will provide the latest updates on AIANTA's partnership with the Bureau of Land Management and the combined effort to support cultural tourism development through the California National Historic Trail located in Nevada. Now to introduce our presenters. My name is Bruce Reddick, and I'll be today's moderator. As AIANTA's partner program coordinator, I'm charged with scoping out exciting tribal tourism opportunities through the U.S., and I also provide marketing and web management support for the organization. I earned a professional certificate in cultural heritage tourism at the George Washington University International Institute of Tourism Studies. I've also served as creative director for my company, Charter Advertising, for over 34 years. And during that time, I've worked with the Duck Valley Shoshone Paiute Tribe, Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, Ely Shoshone Tribe, Washoe Tribe of California, Nevada, Stewart Indian School Cultural Center and Museum, the Nevada Indian Commission, and Nevada's Indian Territory. I'm also an award-winning author, and my published work can be found at brucereddick.com. Karin Farley served for more than 21 years as a visitor and resource protection ranger with the National Park Service. Some of her duty stations include Rocky Mountain National Park in Colorado, Great Smoky Mountains National Park in North Carolina and Tennessee, Sitka National Historic Park, and Lake Clark National Park and Preserve in Alaska, and several parks in the Southwest. Prior to becoming the BLM National Scenic and Historic Trails Lead, she served as a Senior Visitor and Resource Protection Manager for the Appalachian National Scenic Trail. She understands the complexities of the National Trail System, as well as the extraordinary opportunity that exists to connect all people to public lands through trails and the diverse stories, perspectives they hold. She's a single mom to her 9-year-old daughter, and together they celebrate life through the love of adventure. Ben Rupert is of Duck Valley, Shoshone, Paiute, and Washoe descent. Ben is part of Nevada's Indian Territory Leadership Team, a marketing arm of the Nevada Commission on Tourism. He's been the lead on the Nevada's Indian Territory destination development of the Great Basin tribal communities and is a native dancer and traditional artist. Ben shares his native culture through cultural presentations, dancing, fishing, hunting, traditional art, and being a steward of the Great Basin culture. He recently retired from the City of Reno Fire Department after 33 years and also served in the U.S. Army as an airborne infantryman. He graduated from Oregon State University and received a master's in sustainable tourism from Arizona State University. Ben is married and has 3 sons and 3 grandchildren. Leah Brady is the current chairperson of the Great Basin Native Basket Weavers Association. A member of the Western Shoshone Tribe and White Knife Band, she was born and raised in Elko, Nevada. After graduating from Owyhee High School, she attended the University of Nevada, Reno, and earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in education and taught for 23 years. Leah became a master weaver for the Nevada Folk Arts Program and teaches at workshops around the country. She was also invited to the Smithsonian's Folk Life Festival in 2006. Leah co-authored Celebrating Nevada Indians, a teaching curriculum distributed to elementary schools around the state. Leah continues to demonstrate traditional basketry, foods, and arts and crafts, and often demonstrates at the California Trails Visitor Center in Elko. Nicole Ursua is the Chief Industry Development Officer for Travel Nevada. The team has three primary pillars: to support the development of tourism destinations in rural Nevada, to support existing tourism businesses in rural Nevada, and to sell rural Nevada to both domestic and international audiences through travel and trade market development. Her career has spanned both the private and public sectors, having worked for hotels, tourism attractions, tour guide companies, and local governments in both the US and Australia, providing a global view on unique challenges in global tourism. She has a Master's of International Sustainable Tourism Management, and her research interest includes sustainable tourism development, female entrepreneurship, and indigenous tourism. A chapter based on her thesis research is now featured in the Routledge Handbook on Tourism and Small Island States of the Pacific. And with that, we'll begin our presentation. And our first speaker will be Karen Farley.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm really honored to be here with this great group of panelists and to talk about our project with the Bureau of Land Management. Again, my name is Karen Farley, and I am the Bureau of Land Management's program lead for all the National Scenic and Historic Trails. And it's really exciting, actually been also an honor and a privilege for the last 4 years to work under this administration to basically, because of their priorities, really heightened the need, the obvious need for strengthening tribal relations and doing so through partnership. And we can all agree that relationship building starts at the ground up. So it requires showing up and listening, knowing the history, which I'll give you a little history in a minute, early engagement, and then really importantly, compensation and understanding the capacity that everybody's dealing with, capacity issues. So the National Scenic and Historic Trails are part of the National Conservation Land System. And in this program and this directorate for the BLM, we're really proud of being able to really start highlighting and honoring Indigenous knowledge and working on ways to co-steward these landscapes with tribes and Indigenous communities. So trails are managed as part of the conservation land system in the BLM, and they are interdisciplinary and really represent a holistic landscape that's shaped by the people and animals that have moved across the land for generations. So telling all the stories on this landscape is one of the ways that we can come together. And this happens through partnerships like with organizations like AIANTA, who are helping to provide outreach to tribes and Indigenous communities through this partnership in Nevada to support the Native Act, which I'll hone in a little bit on the next slide. So you might be asking yourselves, like, why the California Trail? What's the nexus? And just to give you a brief background before I go into the Native Act, the National Trail System was brought about in 1968 as part of the National Trail System Act. And Lyndon B. Johnson inspired this movement about conservation and restoration of natural beauty that led to the passing of that act. And in the act, it talks about ever increasing outdoor recreation needs and expanding populations, preservation of and public access to travel and enjoyment within, which all sounds like tourism, right? And appreciation of outdoor areas and historic resources. So you can really see that he had a vision for what the future would become. And sorry, hold on a second. I'm having some, I need to mute something. Can you guys hear the ringing? I apologize for that. Hopefully it'll stop here in a minute. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. So you can see he had a vision, right? So Congress officially designated the California Trail as a historic trail in 1992. And today the trail commemorates and interprets a complex and often tragic heritage of the route through historic sites, visitor centers, educational programming, and tour options. Also, you can see the nexus to tourism. Thus far, interpretation of the trail has been predominantly one-sided, as with much of the nation's history. So we must do better, and when you know you must do better, you do better. And through videos like Gravelly Ford, which you'll see in a little bit, that features my lovely co-panelist today, Leah Brady, that's how we move forward. So in 2021, a collaboration along the California Trail was proposed by AIANTA to bring in the 27 tribes along the California Trail here in Northern Nevada to tell the story. Executive Director Sherry Rupert is from this area and knows it well. And I would be remiss to say that the previous program coordinator, Larry Burton, and he's an iconic and well-loved Nevadan. He was pictured in that previous slide, was our initial project manager, who unexpectedly passed last fall, but would be really proud of the project that we're sharing and presenting to you today. So on to the Native Act. Now that you guys have had this slide up, go back one more real quick, Bruce, please. No, there's Larry, but next slide. The Native Act really, you had time to read this as I was speaking, but it has specific requirements of federal agencies, and you see the underlined must. And so my ask to you all as a federal employee is to hold me and my colleagues accountable at the federal agency level to follow this act, this law that is in place. And so that's the birthplace of this agreement, and it's the right thing to do nonetheless, without an act, with or without an act, right? So hold us accountable to help with enhancing these efforts to promote tribal tourism on our public lands and adjacent to our public lands. Okay, next slide, Bruce, thank you. So brief history, the California Trail was just one in a vast network of wagon roads and footpaths that were used by more than 250,000 people to immigrate from the East Coast to the West Coast. It was the largest mass migration in US history. It wasn't a singular route. You can see that it kind of spurs off numerous paths, cutoffs, detours during its decades of use. It crosses 10 states and almost 6,000 miles long. And many of the travelers were seeking new farmlands, gold, finding a kind of a daunting journey across the interior of North America. And there's documented first-person journal entries of settler encounters with the tribes along the California Trail. Shows how much these travelers benefited from the familiarity of the indigenous peoples that they had with their ancestral homelands. However, I would be remiss to say that this colonial wave left a wake of stolen lands and genocide and decimation of natural habitats and sacred sites. So as the program lead for National Scenic Historic Trails, we and my staff and peers acknowledge that the lives and cultures of the indigenous communities were forever changed by this westward expansion. And it's a commitment from the program and this partnership that we can do better. So it's through crucial conversations that expand perspectives, and the trails can help conserve a landscape and a land ethic that starts to build and strengthen these relationships for future generations. So one way we can do that is through providing accurate and inclusive historical interpretations of these congressionally designated trails, and doing so with compensation for collaboration that will enhance the cultural heritage tourism that benefits interested tribes. So next slide. So part of this project is based on a previous project that I was a part of. And in a nutshell, we basically had an idea to overlay the National Trail System map with indigenous territories of the United States, what is now the United States, so people could see the ancestral homelands of all the indigenous communities when they're visiting these public lands. We wanted to create a logo. We hired an indigenous youth intern to create the map. We hired we had a contest for a logo creation, and you'll see it there on the screen, Native Lands National Trails. And we got a Hopi Dene Navajo gentleman named Audrey Lomahomba to create this logo, and it's used for all the marketing. It's on the website, and he was paid, compensated, and sponsored to travel to unveil the artwork. And so next slide, please. So that's where it leads us to our project today. So you'll see that California Art, Past, Present, Future, the official logo of the trail is on the left in 1992. The poster in the middle is a poster of a pretty predominantly one-sided view of that trail, but wonderful artwork, but just not all inclusive. And so the idea came about that we would take this 50th anniversary poster style, which is a typical style for the BLM, and create a new poster for in 2024, 2025 as part of this project. So our ask here today is we're calling for Native artists of Nevada to apply. Next slide, please. And your art could be there. This is our flyer. So we're reaching out and we'd like to highlight the history and current cultural connections that tribes have with this vast, beautiful landscape like the one that's behind me, to revision the poster, right? So like I said, making connection between native lands and national trails is a priority for the BLM. It's a priority for me. Trails are Indigenous, and we have a project acknowledgement for that project, Native Lands National Trails project. And so acknowledging those ancestral lands and the current connections is super important. Collaboration, we want to tell a more inclusive story of the ancestral lands, and looking to the California Trail and how it impacted Native people in Nevada. That's the job of this artist, is to highlight the history and the current cultural connections. And then next is compensation. It's super important for me to, especially in the federal government, we ask a lot of our tribal partners to do consultation, often without compensation for their time. And I feel like the tides are shifting on that, and it's really important to announce this artwork contest with a compensation and a commission, paid travel to the event to unveil the poster. It'll be displayed and celebrated by our partners, tribes, and public, and the poster will be printed and promoted online for outreach, education, and as a promotional material for tribes and partners that have participated. And you can see all the partners there on the bottom of that flyer. Representation is really important, and so we hope we get a lot of applicants. We'll have a great panel to search through all those applicants. I believe they put in the chat the link to apply. You need to fill out a description of how you would approach the project, and then share a small portfolio of your artwork. The deadlines for proposals is August 30th. And again, this artwork will be presented and highlighted, featured at the 2024 American Indigenous Tourism Conference in Louisiana. And lastly, I just want to thank our partners at AIANTA, Nevada's Indian Territory, visit Carson City, Nevada, Patagonia, Oregon, California Trail Association. For all of the help in getting this off the ground, and for creating webinars like this where we can learn from the rest of our panelists. So I think with that, I'll take any questions at the end, but I'll hand it over, I believe, to Mr. Ben Rupert.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm just so happy to be here to tell you who Nevada's Indian Territory is, how we help out not only our 28 tribes in the state of Nevada, but also help out with wonderful projects like the California Trail. As I mentioned before, Ben Rupert, Duck Valley Shoshone Paiute, and also a Washoe from the Lake Tahoe area. And our vision, we established a very, very bold vision, and it's changing the world through eco-cultural tourism of the Great Basin. And I'll talk a little bit about what exactly is eco-cultural tourism, but we wanted to come out with a very, very bold statement. Next slide, please. Just really quickly going over our mission, and I mentioned before that we have 28 tribes that are federally recognized in the state of Nevada. But the Great Basin travels into California, it goes into Utah, Idaho, there's several different, Oregon, there's several different states, and especially, I'm not sure if I mentioned California or not, but 5 other states that are involved in the Great Basin. So it's a very, very large geographical basin, and the water does not drain out to the ocean. That's how you can tell that you're in the Great Basin. And our organization is primarily set up to help out our indigenous owned businesses along with our tribes and doing destination planning. We wanted to make sure that it's done in a very authentic way, and we look at a sustainable eco-cultural tourism niche for when we create our destination management. Next slide, please. You'll see that this is the map, and when Karin pulled out the map of California, you could see that those trails went right along with the established roads that are right there. But you also can look at if you laid over that map and put it right over the top of this, you'd see how many indigenous areas of our different indigenous homelands are involved in the California Trail. You can go from anywhere from the Wells and the Elko area on up to the Duck Valley, Shoshone, Paiute, and McDermott up and on the Oregon border, and all the way over into the Lake Tahoe area and Fallon and Schurz. I mean, it just goes on and on of how many of our tribes. And you'll see that the way that it's set up here is we try to we don't want to use this as a map because we are very nomadic as saying this is what our actual homelands are. But what we want to do is just give a generalized idea of where our traditional homelands are, and divided up into 5 major categories of the Washoe, the Northern Paiute, the Western Shoshone, the Southern Paiute, and then also the Fort Mojave. The Fort Mojave is a new tribe. That when I say new tribe, it's a new tribe that was added into being federally recognized in the state of Nevada. And so we had to shift a lot of our different destination planning we have done in the past and make sure that we're inclusive of all the 5 major tribes. The Washoe tribe in the Lake Tahoe Basin, and also this Fort Mojave tribe that I just mentioned, are the 2 standalone tribes. And the other ones, we grouped the rest that you see here of the 28 into the Northern Paiute, Western Shoshone, and Southern Paiute. Next slide, please. And then we wanted to give you a little background of who Nevada's Indian Territory are. We are one of the DMOs that falls underneath the Travel Nevada. It's actually, I should restate that we are not a DMO, but we are a territory that falls under the Travel Nevada DMO. We strictly are a volunteer organization. None of us get paid for the work we do. So it's just all of our officers and everybody that's involved with the Nevada's Indian Territory donate our time to help make sure that we're providing authentic in tourism, inclusion, cultural identity. These are things that are so important to us that we want to make sure that we're instilling in our destination management. We want to make sure that we're inclusive of everything that involves our culture throughout the Great Basin. So we travel around to travel trade shows. We have in our website, and I encourage everybody to, and maybe Sherry could post our website on the chat here. I encourage everybody to go into our website. You'll see that the Washoe tribe is down right now. It's just because we're in consultation, working with the Washoe tribe to make sure everything is correct that we have in there, and we should have that up in about a week or 2 weeks that we'll have that up and running. We also have a downloadable brochure. We have itineraries in there. We just went through a process where Travel Nevada gave us a grant to create a strategic development plan. And so the intent is once we get our strategic development plan finalized, which it is really finalized, but we want to go through a review process. We're going to be posting that on our website. We're going to move into a navigation app, so you can be anywhere in the state of Nevada and be able to use this navigation app. We haven't come up with a name yet, but one person that I really like mentioned Explore Native Nevada. And so we're trying to come up with a real cool, sexy word for our navigation app. We do powwow markets where we help throughout the state of Nevada. We help out our different culture events, and we give marketing grants to help out with their efforts to promote the tourism to come on out to these open to the public cultural events. We also have on our website, we have a calendar, we have interpretive signs that we are also involved with. We just are very involved with our Great Basin artists and make sure that their work is not only put on our website, but we always try to promote the artist's work in there. And that's one of the reasons why we helped out the California Trail Project and sponsoring to pay one of the artists to create this sign that is being requested right now. We're also helping out the Duck Valley Shoshone Paiute tribe right now, and this is just a fascinating project that we're working on. We are in the process of writing a grant that will hopefully, if we get it accepted, we will be putting up an observatory on the Duck Valley Shoshone Paiute tribe. And this is at a campground. We have several different campgrounds, and when I say we, is because I'm an enrolled member of the Duck Valley Shoshone Paiute tribe. Is that we have camping, we have hunting, we have fishing, and I just found out that even like our elk hunting that we have out there is just world class, along with our fishing. And these elk tags are bringing in $30,000 a hunt. Just crazy to think about that. But that's that ecotourism that I'm talking about, of mixing in the ecotourism along with our culture. So we have the eco-cultural tourism. We do marketing videos. We just did an amazing video of traveling around the shorelines of Lake Tahoe, or Tahoe Aga, as we call them in Washoe language. And what it does is just creates a responsible tourism to travel around the shorelines, to respect our cultural identity, to understand the cultural significance of Tahoe Aga to our people. We also are going to be moving into an influencer to influence more traffic into our website. And the last one right here is just I already mentioned how we're helping out with the poster, but our efforts, you'll see that on our website, we have actually posted on California Trail Project. We have you'll see that we have pictures in there what's on our itinerary. And as this project moves forward, the information that is put together, we will be working directly with AIANTA, the Bureau of Land Management, to help out with this, and all of our tribes to help out with the California Trail Project. And the ultimate goal is to be able to put this trail on our itineraries, our mapping system, and especially with the Visit Widget navigation app that we have down there. Next slide. This just shows some of the destination planning that we do. I put this one up here because what we're trying to do is to instill language. So we want to give the proper way that we say Tahoe, which is mispronounced as Tahoe. And that shows you the spelling right there. And then we have a sustainability pledge that's tied into that. So we have the Tahoe Pledge, which just talks about that responsible tourism and having transformative experience. And the big thing now is not only to create a sustainable destination, but also to create a regenerative type tourism where not only do you visit our homelands in a responsible way, that you're also figuring out a way that you can make it a better place to improve the quality of life of our people after you visit our homelands. And that's what regenerative tourism is all about. So this one here identifies the different cultural events that we have in there. It shows how the Washoe tribe is involved with trails, with even sawmill to help create a sustainable forest in the Lake Tahoe area. We have travel plazas. We have identified on here as our homelands. And then you'll see that there's a QR code there. You can scan that QR code, and that takes you to that video that I was just talking about. And then the bottom QR code down there and takes you to the actual itineraries and information about the Washoe tribe. And we also want to make sure that we're not stepping over our boundaries when it comes to representing the culture of our 28 tribes. And so what we do is we try to direct all cultural aspect to the tribe. And so we just, through our efforts, we direct you to the ecotourism or the eco-cultural tourism opportunities that we have. Next slide. And then this shows you, it's very similar to the last one you saw down there, but we're also trying to put in our, so this is, for example, this is a interpretive sign that we're working on. So it has the video in there. We also put down the economic development that we have throughout the tribe. And then we go into some more language, such as the Carson River, which is in the area, to how we say pine nut or the pinion nut, and then we have Medee for the bear, and Daho Aga for Tahoe, or just Daho for the Lake Tahoe area. The Daho Aga that I was talking about talks about the shorelines. Next slide. Could we go back, Bruce? I have just a little bit of time, and so I wanted to end it with something. I wanted to tell everybody a little story out here. Is there any way you can go to show me, Bruce, or do we have to, or just want to tell a story?
Just go ahead and tell the story might be best, Ben.
Okay, yeah. What I was going to say is, in my hand here, I'm holding a bow that I made about 12 years ago, and then I went to the California Trail and we did a recent webinar. And when I was there, I asked them if they still had that bow, and they said, "Oh my gosh, do you know about that bow?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm the one that the artist that made that bow." And from then on, they wanted to find out information about this bow because I didn't have any write-up on it. They said it's amazing that they have so many students and different visitors coming in, and they use this bow that I made because it's done traditional way out of juniper with sinew over the top of it. They use this to show all the different tourists that are traveling to the California Trail Museum on our traditional bows and how they're made. And I know that Leah, when she talks, she'll be talking more about the efforts that they do. But I got a chance to re-grab this bow here. I did a lot of the different things where I put in the pine pitch because it was 12 years old and some of the sinew had been lifting off. So now I'm going to be taking it back. And then one of the things that I did is I drew in some petroglyphs on here that represent petroglyphs. And one of them is the bighorn sheep. And what I've learned is that bighorn sheep is the one that has our knowledge of our Great Basin traditional arts. And so that bighorn sheep is able to navigate through our mountains. It knows where water is, it knows where safety is, it knows where our food is, and most importantly, which ties into this talk right here, it identifies such things as the California Trail, which was an indigenous route of ours, but now is called the California Trail. Okay, thank you, Bruce.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Yeah, before Leah speaks, we're going to go show a short video clip, that Gravelly Ford video that Karin had mentioned, and it's a clip, an excerpt that has Leah speaking in it.
What became the California Trail was already in use for thousands of years by Native Americans. Perspectives from those emigrating and those who have called this land home for millennia will be different.
So one of the things that the westward movement did was that people who were coming west, namely white Americans and some African Americans and some others, had a culture that would clash with the Native Americans who were already here. Completely different worldviews, completely different religious views, and most importantly, a completely different view of the land and the world.
It was difficult for the Native American people. I mean, here comes this onslaught of people over their land. I don't think there were any rules and regulations at that time about what's yours is mine and what's mine is yours and so forth.
My name is Leah Brady, and I am a White Knife Shoshone, and which is part of the Western Shoshone today. We call ourselves Western Shoshone. We've lived in this area for more than 15,000 years. So I'm part of the White Knife band that lived along the Humboldt River. And I've lived here all my life in Elko, and my mother was also born here. And my father was born in Biawali, which is down by Gravelly Ford. So he grew up in that area. So they had close contact with the immigrants that came through here.
The effects of Europeans on the native populations cannot be overlooked. Beginning with the influx of fur trappers in the early 1800s, the number of white settlers grew exponentially. First encounter of white men was experienced directly by an ancestor of Leah.
It would be my great-great-grandfather. And as he was looking at the river, he kept seeing this dust cloud getting bigger and bigger. So he followed them. And as he was following them, he saw the snakes. And he couldn't figure out what those snakes were. He kept following them. It was this big wooden box that he was seeing that was making the snake trails. When he got close, he was confused because he couldn't understand why these people were traveling and sick. And he had never seen hair on people's faces before. And so he was concerned that they were sick and they were bringing sickness into the area.
The fur trading era of the West was strikingly different than the emigration era. The mountain men had an appreciation for the natives. They respected their way of life and sought to learn from them.
You know, a great deal of them got along with the Native Americans. A high compliment to a mountain man was, "Oh, I mistook you for an Indian," because they adopted a lot of the dress and the survival techniques that they learned from the Indians, and also Plains Indian sign talk and stuff like that, so they could communicate and trade. And many of them spent winters with Indian tribes. They took Indian wives.
This changed by the 1850s, as those heading west on the trail did not have the same relationship with the land or its people.
You know, so when we talk about changes, not only has our food sources, but the environment that we're living in, and then of course, then we moved into forced assimilation that we've had to go through. And, you know, there's good and bad to all of it. And, you know, and we can't say that we haven't learned to assimilate as we're going, because we've created another way of doing what we're doing. And that's what we did. And that's how we survived, even when there weren't the non-Indians here. It was a matter of survival.
Our nation's history is a patchwork quilt of perspectives and stories. By listening to the voices of people from a variety of backgrounds, we can better comprehend the past and the present and have a greater sense of where we are headed in the future.
Yeah, if you get a chance, we put the link in there to the complete video, and the audio is a little bit better if you go directly streaming online. So yeah, please visit that. But it's just a beautifully done video that tells a lot of the story of the California Trail. And with that, I'll leave Leah speak.
I'm sorry. My name's Leah Brady, and I'm Western Shoshone, and I'm from Elko. And the California Trail had a very major impact on the tribes along the Humboldt River, because the Humboldt River was the major route and source of resources for our people. And at first, when the trail started, or the immigration started, many of the people didn't even know about the migration, because, and you could probably go to the next slide, due to the fact that most of the native people had moved with the seasonal gathering into the mountain areas. And so they were not along the Humboldt River when the first immigrants started coming through. I've been at the California Trail. I think it was the native pictures that I was trying to hit on. But do you have the mural? Because this is a different order, Bruce. Anyway, I read a lot. I was on the California Board Association, the Historic Association Board, and I wrote the newsletter. And in doing so, I did a lot of research using the immigrant diaries. And many of them noted that they didn't even see any natives, or only saw them in a distance, until later years of the migration started noting more natives in the area. But what they didn't know is the natives were watching. They were along the Humboldt River, you had all the willows, and they would watch them in the willows as they were passing and as the trains were coming through. And the reason I mentioned that they weren't there is because once the migration started, they arrived in the Elko area in the late summer and early fall. So right now, our temperatures have been from 80s to in the hundreds, or 99, I think, one day. So it's been very hot, and this is the hottest time of the year for us. We're in the desert. And so most of the native people weren't even here because they were in the mountains south of the Humboldt. They were gathering berries, choke cherries, elderberries, where our mountains are full of berries, currants, service berries, buckberries. And it was also a fishing time in the mountain streams and a deer hunting time. So not many people were down on the Humboldt Basin area. So most of the people were ready to head south in August. They were heading towards the Piney Hills. And most of the Piney Hills are higher in the mountains. They're further south than along the Humboldt River. And so this area, most of them didn't even know about the migration happening until later years, when they learned that they could find food from the wagon trains, and more of the people started approaching the trains, and conflict started to occur over the sustenance of food. Settlements started happening in the area, and then the military was brought in to protect the settlements. And this is what led to the military enforcement and the signing of the Ruby Valley Treaty. The people were forced on reservations, many resisted. We had the people that lived what we called the Carlin Farms were moved up to the Duck Valley Reservation. People were forced to move up to these places, but they resisted. They wanted to continue their seasonal hunting and gathering. And since the government never complied with providing food for those on the reservations, many of them left. And then later, children were removed from their homes and sent to boarding school at the Stewart Indian School in Carson City. Traditional activities were banned and native languages prohibited in the schools. And a lot of the adults who refused to move onto the reservation started working in the settlements, working on ranches, trying to raise their own cattle, or they were domestic workers or laborers along the Humboldt. And the mural does a really good job the California Trail Center does a really good job of showing this is the lifestyle of how we lived, what happened during the forcible removal, going to the boarding school, and then, of course, it also showed what we would call traditional revitalization, showing what our people are doing now. So the Trail Center is really a very informative information showing the native life, and besides the trail itself. It does a really good job. And then we do have the I won't say artifacts because they were all commissioned. I worked on the very first committee that started planning the Trail Center. So when we talk about representation, I participated at the Trail Center on that community to help design the murals, help to run some of the native kiosks outside of the center, because I felt that as Native people, if we did not participate in the activities at the center, non-natives would be telling our story. And this has been what's happened in history all along. The stories and demonstrations about Native people should be done by our Native people. Every year, myself and other Native people come and demonstrate basket weaving, and we can answer questions about our lifestyle and about our crafts. or questions that the general public has regarding, what had happened, or any questions about who lived in the area. And it shows, as you look at the previous maps of the native tribes, one of the major things you see is Interstate 80. Well, Interstate 80 was the immigrant trail through Nevada. And so that map was showing exactly where the trail went, and it still is today. We are on that immigrant trail. So I try to also include the Northern Paiute weavers when they come up and demonstrate to participate, because once the trail left the Winnemucca area or the Golconda area, the immigrants were in the Northern Paiute area until they came to the end of the Humboldt River. They crossed the desert and either reached the Carson or the Truckee rivers. And if they traveled the Truckee River, they were also in Northern Paiute, his territory. And then once they reached the Sierra area, then they were in Washoe territory. So the trail pretty much follows how the modern trail today goes. And it's really a good thing where they placed the trail center, because it's right on a major path, not only for modern times, but in the past. That was the route we went. We went through that South Fork River, coming through that pass to the river. There were encampments along the river right there at the end of the South Fork. And that's where a lot of the diaries that were part of the immigrant trail would tell about how they had met the native people that later on, and this was later on in the immigration, they would come upon camps because the people knew that they could meet the trail there. And just a brief mention, besides my family story that was shared in the film, my great-grandmother was actually a young woman at that time, and when the trail was in full force, I guess. And she remembers actually helping the immigrants save as they were crossing in the Gravelly Ford area, because that's where my family was living at the time. And she would actually swim out into the river and collect belongings for people so they didn't lose their belongings. And the funny part of it is they always wanted to pay her in money, and she didn't know what money was. And so she put it in a can that she had collected along with the remnants of camps and stuff, because they would go through and see what was left behind. And she stored her little money in her cans and never used them because she didn't know what they were. We don't know what happened to her coins, but that's what happened. A lot of the things that they saw, they didn't understand. When my great-grandfather saw them, he thought they were laughing when they were singing and they were playing music. He knew it was music because he could feel the rhythm of it, but he didn't know what they were doing. And as they were cooking, he explained that they were eating from this black rock, and he had these descriptions of things that only he knew. And so the trail affected a lot of people in our tribe and changed our whole way of life. And one of the things that we keep trying to do is retain our culture. And as a young girl, I did a lot of beadwork. And by the time I was 25, I had carpal tunnel. And so I felt that I needed to become a weaver because it was another area that my family was a part of. my great-grandmother was a well-known Shoshone weaver, Mary Hall. And she had 4 daughters, and they were all weavers. But they had all passed away by the time that I was a young girl. So I believe, well, my mother contacted a washerwoman and that she had gone to the bicentennial with. And Elaine Christensen was her name. And she told my mom, bring Leah, because I was going to the university at that time in Reno. And she said, bring her down and I'll show her how to prepare the willows, split them and everything. And then she'll have to find out how to make the baskets. So she did. She shared that with me. And that's why today I continue sharing, because if it wasn't for Elaine, I wouldn't have known how to make these baskets, these willow baskets, our traditional willow baskets. And baskets are really important for our people, and we don't want to lose this because we started our lives in a basket. Our cradle board is a basket. We lived in basket-styled homes. We have replicas of those homes outside the trail center. It's actually a large basket. We gathered materials and food. We cooked and we ate out of the woven baskets. We carried our water in baskets. We stored our belongings in baskets. We also maintained the willow and the tule environments in which we gathered. And that was changing, and we needed to change with them. Things have access and climate change are major issues right now in our area. And it takes a lot of willows to make a basket, and we have to find the willows. It takes us longer. I have to go out 60 miles from where I live in order to even collect anything that is healthy. So not all willows grow the same or have the same. And with the gathering seasons and the weather change, it's affected being able to gather willows. And I belong to the Great Basin Basket Weavers Association, and we started 24 years ago. And we were losing a lot of weavers, and we felt it was important to keep that sharing going. And when we started, the tribes didn't have the resources to provide teachers and classes for people. So our group took up the task to start the classes. So in the past 24 years, we found teachers, volunteers. We've asked for assistance from different tribes to hold classes in their communities. We've taught all the baskets. And so our weavers that belong to our group know how to make the burden baskets, the winnowing trays, the seed containers, the water jugs, the seed beaters, and there was just a number of baskets that our people had and that were used. And some of these communities are now able to provide their own basket revitalization teaching programs. But there's still much to be done, and our weavers are still committed to keeping, and our motto of our organization is keeping the baskets alive for another 1,000 years, because we've been in this area for anywhere from 10 to 15,000 years, and our people have been doing baskets all this time. And that will continue to happen.
Thanks, Leah. Appreciate that. There's beautiful baskets. Just great to see all those. Nicole, you're up.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Leah and Karen and Ben and Bruce. I'll go quick here. So we wanted to share some opportunities that we here at Travel Nevada have available to our residents. Travel Nevada, our mission is to increase the and better the lives of our residents in our rural regions. So we really focus on things that are outside of populations of 100,000 and more. So we are really in those rural areas. So we'll go to that next slide. So as Ben mentioned, we do have the territories. The territories were created back in the 1980s by the governor, and it helped create areas amongst the state to bring our rural communities together, to be able to leverage ideas, work together. And through that, we'll go ahead and click to that next slide. So the territories were created, like I said, based off of geographic as well as thematic. The Nevada Indian Territory is the entire state because we recognize obviously the 28 tribes throughout the state, and they are not located in just one area, and a way to leverage that all together. So as Ben mentioned, we work with the Nevada Indian Territory and help support programming that they want to do. We'll go ahead and go to that next slide. So our 3D project, so I wanted to talk about that a little bit, our Destination Development Design Project. Go ahead and go to that next slide, Bruce. So this is a new project. The first year is actually came to a wrap at the end of our fiscal year. So we're working on our next iteration. The first year was a Destination Development Demonstration because it was first year. Now we're moving into the Destination Development Design Program, where we'll be working through this program over the next few years. The way it started out is communities were able to apply to be part of this program. There's 2 phases for it. One is which the community that were selected were paired with Travel Nevada staff as well as consultants who came in and helped them develop a 10-year destination development plan. It's a roadmap for them to come out and say, this is where we are and this is where we want to be. How do we do that? There's so many things in the middle that have to be done, and there's a lot of resources, but how can we combine all that together and help set up our destinations for success, to be able to grow their tourism assets and be able to increase their visitor experience. So that's where that part came through. The second part, after they get their plans, the destinations have the opportunity to apply for a grant. So that's now where the funding mechanism comes in from Travel Nevada. So the destinations say, out of this plan, we know that we want to focus on these things in the next 2 years, because that's the grant model right now is 2 years. And we fund them, and now we've got cohorts who have gone through the first phase who are in that space right now. They've gotten their grant money and they're working, and a lot of times that money is really important for laying that groundwork to be able to maybe get in project managers to help out, to get tools, supplies, infrastructure. So many things just in those first few years are so important to get up and off the ground. But one of the main parts of this program too that's really important is it's community driven. So we went in with our consultants into the community, held community events, because it was very important for us here at Travel Nevada that this is a project that the community gets behind, that the community wants, because tourism that comes in that's at a antithesis of what the locals want isn't good tourism. Tourism is about being able to celebrate our communities and share that with visitors, not create a space that's hard for our locals to live in. So we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide there. So really quickly, like I mentioned, we're getting ready to open up our next project for 2025 fiscal year. So just pointing out that our territories are able to apply, our local governments are able to apply, our nonprofit organizations, as well as our tribal lands as well. So we want everyone to be engaged, and my destination development manager is actually putting together a road trip where she'll be going out throughout the state, meeting with communities and talking to them about any ideas they have and how they might be able to translate that into something that they can apply to participate in the program with. So there'll be more to come on that, and we'll share all information on when that project opens through our LinkedIn page, as well as our industry newsletter, as well as through our territories. And then another program we have is our rural marketing grants. Ben mentioned that the Nevada Indian Territory helps support members of their tribe. And so this is another way that we do that too. The territory itself can apply for marketing grants. Go ahead and go to that next slide, Bruce. But as well as local governments, nonprofits. So our marketing grants open every year. It opens in January. So next one will be January 2025. Our applicants have until April to put together their grant application. During that time, we'll do webinars of opportunities. So we go out to partners. So whether it's our trade partners, our marketing entities, research partners, we'll gather conferences that are going on. We'll try to create a map, a roadmap of these are all the opportunities you guys have. And then the applicants can then decide what they like to put in for. We have $1.5 million to give away each year. And we're always looking for innovative and new ideas. We love to see the creativity. I'll go ahead and go to that next slide since we are running out of time and I want to be conscious of everyone's day today. So on the industry development side, so go ahead and just a real quick, this is the team. So myself, Courtney Bloomer is our destination development manager. So she oversees the destination project. Abby Ortiz is our industry development specialist, and she works hand in hand with our territories and our rural partners. If people have questions on where to go and what to do, she's a great asset for that. As well as Robert Graff, he is our industry relations specialist, really on the domestic side of things out of our Las Vegas office. And I actually have 2 new employees that I just started up that I haven't gotten onto the slide yet. But we also have our Elsa, who does our international efforts, as well as Yesenia, who helps us out on the team. So just a quick overview of all the things that we do to engage with us. You can join our industry newsletter, our LinkedIn page, our Facebook page, or reach out to any of us, even if it's a not sure where to go, industry@travelnevada.com. We'll get you to our email address and we'll make sure you get connected to the right person. And again, a real quick slide of all of our contact information there for you. So that way, if you have any questions and if you'd like to learn more, please reach out because we are here to support as much as we can. That is our goal. And thank you so much for being here, letting me be here today.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks for going through so quickly with that. We are running a little bit tight on time, but everyone out there, I wanted to share all of our contact information. It's on the screen if you want to take a screenshot. It looks like we had a lot of questions come in. I'll try to, I'll stop share right now and we'll try to answer some of those questions. Let's see. Boy, we've got a lot of things going on here. Let's see. Thank you, Ben.
It's mostly praise, Bruce. It's all thank yous and love for everybody. So,
oh, that's good.
yeah.
Well, if there's any questions after the webinar, this webinar will be recorded. So please make sure to go ahead and you can view it later on. It should be posted in a couple days. I just wanted to go over just a couple of things also. Just be aware of the AIANTA resources that we have. Thank you to all our speakers, of course. You guys did great. If you're not a member of AIANTA, would like to be, please visit us at aianta.org/membership. If you go to aianta.org, you'll see everything there is about the organization. And then also we're having our upcoming AITC Annual American Indigenous Tourism Conference coming up on October 28th at Paragon Casino Resort in Marksville, Louisiana. And that'll be coming up, so you can register online for that as well. And I believe there's a link in the chat. If not, please reach out to us. But again, I want to thank everybody. And yeah, Ben.
I was reading the chat in there, and I noticed that one person made a comment of they said they loved all these opportunities, and they work with a California tribe. And you might want to mention Visit Native California as an avenue that particular tribe and person that asks a question that can go to for a very similar type of opportunities.
That's a great comment. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, because Visit California really is doing a really concerted effort to promote the tribes and tell the native stories of California. So yeah, that's great. Thank you, Ben. All right. Any last comments from panelists?
Share the call for native artists. We want to all your friends and family that are artists out there, please share. Looking forward to celebrating this work with art and community. Thanks.
All right, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it, and have a good day. Bye now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.